And so what are more the consequences of all this? This is on page 277 and the next page. So he says that some data from Williams College, it used to cost $28,000 per year at a time when the median U.S. income before taxes was $35,000. So that's almost your year's salary for just a year at a university or a college. And though aid per full-time student had increased, students could only feel that they were dealing with a marketplace situation. Paying so much, they inevitably demanded economic value in return: entertainment, high grades, relevance, job preparation, certification for admission to professional schools. This trend was laid out precisely in a letter by Mason Lowens to the Princeton Alumni Weekly in 1997. This is a quote from that. The alarming facts are that between 1980 and 1994, household income went up 90%, inflation went up 84%, and college costs went up 234%. Meanwhile, the academic year, the actual time most teachers spend in the classroom, contracted from 36 weeks to 28 weeks. So you see all these consequences of now in education. Becoming more expensive. Probably what contributed a great amount was the availability of student aid and the GI Bill and all that. So the universities thought, well, most students are just getting aid money. We'll just crank up our costs. If you crank up the costs, now education is not so much a luxury. It's something that is an investment. And if it's an investment, then now students demand all this other stuff. And if it becomes even more and more competitive too, now universities have to become little cities. They have to have grocery store. They have to, in the basement, which is at my university actually, they have to have all kinds of student services like mental health services and study services and all this stuff that never existed before. They have to have gyms and fitness centers and pools and all this other stuff. And then of course the students want you to have courses that are very practical, that translate into a certification for some kind of job or whatever. And then of course teaching times go down, or more part-timers are put in because of they're trying to cut costs, I guess. I don't know. But you just see all this ridiculousness happening at the universities because of they're all consequences of this new era and what's been happening and all the stuff I've been describing. He also says, this is on page 278, he also says that this attack on truth, right? It also attacks failing grades. So he says, this is from the New York Times, actually. The chairman of my department, this is a professor wrote it in the New York Times, I guess. The chairman of my department changed a student's F, which apparently was a 32%. That's an F, right? His department changed that F to a passing grade. Why? Because the parents of the student were lawyers. That's 1995. And then now the author says, but fear of being sued is only a secondary concern and a more general breakdown of the authority that a realistic grading system once conferred on teachers and institutions. When the certainty in truth goes, it becomes impossible to fail anyone. On 286, we have again a really good quote. This is from an old literature professor. So this is the author first. He says, some of the academics I most admired were far less willing to make their peace with the changes that came to the universities than I was. My old model, Maynard Mack, the man who had shown me what a teacher of literature might hope to be, violently denounced postmodernism as a serious moral failure. And this is a quote now from Mack. We are narrowing, not enlarging our horizons. We are shucking, not assuming our responsibilities. And we communicate with fewer and fewer because it is easier to jabber in a jargon than to explain a complicated matter in the real language of men. How long can a democratic nation afford to support a narcissistic minority so transfixed by its own image? So yes, like I've been saying, this movement away from being focused on the material and what we can get out of it, what kind of wisdom can we get out of the past, and now focused on the student and their present opinions and their Rousseauian wisdom, their inherent like Rousseau is. It's a little bit a little bit unfair, but it's along the lines of Rousseau that wisdom can be found and beauty or purity can be found in children. Innocence and inexperience can be a virtue. Right. So this is kind of happening to the universities as well. The students are supposed to be the ones who are empowered, And yet they're supposed to also be the most ignorant yet, right? But it's about their empowerment and their present needs and place. But what does it have to do with studying what wisdom we can get of reading Homer or reading Shakespeare, right? That cannot afford a narcissistic attitude.